Welcome back to another video. It's your boy Quantum here, back with another one. In today's video, we're gonna be learning where do you go after anesthesia? When you go under anesthesia, my bad. Anyways, let's just get right into the video, cause I ain't. Let's just do it.
Picture this. You're lying on an operating table. A mask goes over your face, or a needle slides into your arm, and someone asks you to count backward from 10. You might get to 7, maybe 6 if you're feeling ambitious. And then nothing. Not darkness,
You're not
not
gonna. You're not going to let me finish my count. 10. Like, come on.
not a slow fade, not even the sensation of falling asleep. Just an absolute seamless gap where one moment you're counting numbers under fluorescent lights, and the very next moment, with zero perceived time in between, a nurse is gently shaking your shoulder, telling you it's all over. Hours have passed. Your body has been cut open, rearranged, occasionally had things removed from it, and yet
Occasionally, it's kind of crazy.
none of it. Not even the boring parts. So, where exactly did you go during all of that? And more unsettling, did you actually go anywhere at all, or did you just briefly stop existing in any meaningful sense?
Hold up. I think you're going like a dream state, bro. It's like kind of a lucid dream, but you don't remember the dream.
This question turns out to be a lot less settled than most people assume. We tend to think of anesthesia the way we think of a light switch. Awake, I am waiting
Not
for
awake and awake
Olympia,
again.
an Olympian, in a former refugee, breathing normally,
Okay,
on
bro.
and off, then
Then
back again. Simple as that. But once you actually dig into what's happening inside the brain during general anesthesia, you realize the
you turn off your memory. I think you turn off. I don't know.
switch
Shit.
metaphorically barely scratches the surface. And honestly, it might be one of the most misleading metaphors in all of popular science communication. Let's start with the obvious, slightly philosophical wrinkle here. General anesthesia isn't sleep. This
It
truth is
isn't.
repeated constantly, mostly because anesthesiologists themselves often use the phrase go to sleep right before they put you under, which is honestly just a kindness, a softer way of saying we're about to chemically suppress your entire consciousness, which doesn't exactly make for a pleasant
Bro,
sensation.
what?
Natural sleep and anesthetic unconsciousness look almost nothing alike on a brain scan.
Sleep. Wait, which one's sleep?
During normal sleep, your
It's
brain moves
ways. Yeah.
through distinct stages: light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep,
Re- Is that dreaming?
each with its own characteristic pattern of electrical activity. Your brain stays remarkably busy throughout the night, processing memories, running through dream sequences, occasionally responding to outside stimuli, like a loud noise nudging you toward waking up. Under general anesthesia, that entire cycling pattern
Stops.
essentially gets switched off. The brain doesn't cycle through stages. It drops into a relatively stable, suppressed state and largely stays there until the drugs wear off. It's less like falling asleep and more like someone reaching directly into your brain's electrical
And, and it's powering it down. Yeah.
wiring and turning specific dials all the way down. So if it's not sleep, what is actually happening? Here's where things get genuinely fascinating because general anesthesia
Wait.
doesn't just turn off the brain the way pulling a plug turns off a lamp. Different anesthetic drugs target
Cause you turn off the brain, you'll die.
different specific
What the?
in
Y'all
fact,
talking about,
the
bro?
overall effect ends up being more like a carefully engineered communication breakdown between different regions of the brain rather than a simple, uniform shutdown. Researchers using EEG monitoring during surgery have found that anesthetic drugs tend to disrupt something called functional connectivity, the brain's ability to coordinate information
Bro,
between
who are the
different
lab
regions
rats, bro? How much y'all paying, bro? How low key do this?
between different regions. Your brain doesn't necessarily go quiet everywhere all at once. Instead, different areas essentially stop talking to each other effectively, isolated little islands of activity that can no longer integrate into anything resembling
Also,
a
it's like a
unified
puzzle piece, bro.
conscious experience. This actually connects to one of the leading theories about what consciousness even is in the first place, something called integrated information theory. The basic idea is that consciousness isn't located in any single brain region.
It's
remarking
all
the brain's ability to integrate huge amounts of information
uh,
across
to multiple parts of the brain.
regions simultaneously,
Yup.
creating one unified, coherent experience out of countless separate signals. Anesthesia appears to specifically target and disrupt that integration process. Your individual brain regions might still technically be doing something, processing some signals, generating some electrical activity, but they're no longer talking to each other in a way that
So
produces
they're
a single,
disconnected.
unified
So
signal.
so they're breaking the apart into very many pieces. Yeah.
You experiencing anything. It's less like turning off a house's electricity and more like cutting every single wire connecting the rooms to each other. So even though there might still be some power flowing somewhere, nothing in the house can actually function together as a coordinated whole anymore.
Oh.
Now, here's where this gets genuinely strange. It's
Alright.
part of this case
Alright.
that even specialists find a little unsettling.
What?
There's a real, documented, surprisingly common phenomenon called anesthesia awareness, where a patient's brain retains some level of memory or processing during a procedure despite anesthesia being administered correctly. Estimates suggest this
It's
happens in
1 in 50.
in somewhere around 1 to 2 cases per thousand surgeries, which
Oh. That's no.
sounds rare until you remember just how many surgeries happen globally every single day. In most documented cases of anesthesia awareness, patients report fragments, sounds from the operating room, a vague sense of pressure, sometimes brief flashes of something resembling awareness without full sensory detail.
Imagine you was awake for your Yo, imagine you was awake for your surgery, bro. This shit pisses me off for so much. I'm like, bro.
In rarer, far more distressing cases, patients have reported actually being able to feel pain during the procedure while being completely unable to move or communicate that fact to anyone in the room, a phenomenon that's about as close to a real life nightmare scenario as modern medicine produces, and one of the biggest reasons anesthesiologists are constantly refining drug combinations and monitoring techniques to reduce the risk as close to zero as humanly possible. This phenomenon actually reveals something important about how anesthesia works because it turns out unconsciousness and the inability to move aren't necessarily the same thing biologically, even though they
True.
usually happen together. Many anesthesia protocols use a combination of different drugs, one for unconsciousness, one for pain suppression, and often a separate paralytic agent specifically to keep the body still during surgery. If the dosing or timing of any one of these components gets slightly miscalibrated, you can end up with a scenario where the paralytic is doing its job perfectly, while the unconsciousness component isn't fully suppressing awareness, creating exactly the kind of rare, deeply unsettling situation that anesthesia awareness describes. It's a sobering reminder that going under isn't one single switch. It's actually several different switches being flipped simultaneously. And modern anesthesia is essentially a finely tuned juggling act managing all of them at once. Let's pull back from the unsettling stuff for a moment
Bro, what the hell is happening? So your brain disconnects, and then what else happens? I don't know. Like you go under pressure, whatever. So
and get into something genuinely fascinating. What happens in the brain during the actual transition into unconsciousness, the moment right as the drugs take effect? Researchers studying this transition using EEG monitoring have found that right before full unconsciousness sets in, the brain often goes through a brief, chaotic burst of unusual activity, sometimes described as a kind of electrical storm, before settling into the quieter, more suppressed pattern associated with full anesthesia. Some researchers have speculated that this transitional period might be connected to the strange, vivid, sometimes dreamlike experiences a
I told you you dream. Hey, bro.
small percentage of patients report right as they're going under or coming back out of anesthesia, fragments of imagery, brief sensations, occasionally something resembling a dream that gets stitched together right at the edge of consciousness,
Wait.
where the brain's normal integration process is rapidly breaking down or rebuilding itself. This brings us to one of the more genuinely mind bending aspects of this whole topic, the question of subjective time. 4-hour surgery and a 40-minute procedure feel from the inside
It feels the exact same.
completely identical because there's no inside experiencing duration at all during that window. This is genuinely different from things like a dreamless night's sleep, where most people still have some vague, fuzzy sense that time passed, even if they can't account for what happened during them.
Bro, it's so hard to dream now. I don't know why. It's just like start failing. Like my dreams start like half it's failing. And you know you you're you want to wake up and you keep waking up and then you just go back to sleep and then you keep waking up and then go back to sleep, bro. How y'all ever had that, man? Like, bro, why you telling me I'm sitting here, I'm laying here, I rolled over. Gosh. So what should I do? Oh, then I want to go back to sleep. And I don't know what time it is. Then you check your phone. Then you like your phone for like a little minute. Then you go fall back asleep. Then you wake up again. Like, come on, bro. It's just pointless.
Under proper general anesthesia, that vague sense of duration simply doesn't form because the brain
Yeah,
machinery
I'm finna put this on like 1.5 times. Yeah, it's a little playback speed is cool.
responsible for tracking and later recalling the passage of time appears to be specifically and thoroughly disrupted, not just dialed down. Researchers studying this have pointed to specific brain structures, particularly regions involved in memory formation like the hippocampus, as playing a major role here. Anesthesia doesn't just suppress your ability to perceive things in the moment, it also appears to specifically block the formation of new memories during that window, even for any
Oh,
fragments of awareness that might technically occur.
so no new memories, no thoughts. It's just boom, done.
This is actually a deliberate, engineered feature of how many anesthetic drugs work, not just a side effect. Even in the
It's like a do not disturb setting for your mind, and it gets you focused in just 5 minutes. Using science.
Even in the rare cases of partial anesthesia awareness we talked about earlier, the amnesic properties of certain anesthetic drugs mean that many patients who do experience some level of awareness during surgery genuinely have no memory of it afterward, which is simultaneously a small mercy and a deeply strange thing to sit with once you really think about it. Let's bring ketamine into this conversation for a moment, because it's a
Ketamine?
genuinely unique case among anesthetic drugs, and it offers a fascinating window into a completely different mechanism of
What does ketamine do, bro? I just heard it's a drug.
going under. Unlike most general anesthetics, which work primarily by suppressing brain activity and disrupting integration between regions, ketamine produces something called a dissociative state, where patients often report a sense of separation between their mind and body, sometimes describing experiences that sound remarkably similar to descriptions of near-death experiences. Floating sensations, a feeling of detachment from physical pain, occasionally vivid, dreamlike imagery that feels distinctly different from ordinary dreaming. Researchers studying ketamine's mechanism have found that it primarily targets a specific
Yo, that look like people use ketamine just to do this all the time. To do this all the time.
type of receptor involved in regulating communication between the thalamus and the cortex, essentially disrupting the brain's normal sensory relay system rather than uniformly suppressing activity everywhere. This produces a genuinely different flavor of altered consciousness compared to other
True.
anesthetics, one where the brain doesn't necessarily go quiet. It goes quiet in some areas while becoming unusually active and disorganized in others, which might explain why ketamine experiences are so frequently described in such vivid, bizarre, occasionally dreamlike terms compared to the more straightforward blankness most people report with other general anesthetics. This naturally raises a comparison that comes up constantly in this topic. How does general anesthesia compare to near-death experiences? And is there any legitimate overlap between the two? This is genuinely one of the more scientifically contentious corners of consciousness research, partly because near-death experiences
All the time. How to audio.
inherently difficult to study under controlled conditions for fairly obvious reasons involving the word death. That said, some researchers have pointed out intriguing similarities between certain reported near-death experience features, particularly the floating sensation, detachment from physical pain, and vivid imagery, and the specific dissociative effects produced by ketamine and certain other anesthetic-adjacent compounds. Some scientists have proposed that the brain, under extreme physiological stress, might naturally produce internal compounds, or activate pathways that mimic some of these dissociative anesthetic effects, essentially the brain accidentally triggering its own version of a ketamine-like experience during a genuine crisis. This remains a genuinely open, actively debated area of research rather than a settled conclusion. But it's a fascinating thread connecting two topics that, on the surface, seem like they shouldn't have much in common at all.
So, you telling me I can either wake up, kind of, like feel something, hear something, and have a sense of time, like, or I could just live free. Hey, I'm taking the ketamine, bro.
Now let's talk about something a little more grounded, and a lot more relevant to anyone who's ever actually had surgery. The experience of waking up. Because this transition turns out to be just as scientifically interesting as going under, and arguably even
They start to reconnect, right? Again.
easier from a neurological standpoint. Coming out of general anesthesia,
It's like slowly. It takes you like 10, 15. No, it takes you an hour to realize, oh, it hurts.
isn't an instant, clean return to full consciousness. It's a
Bro said, oh, yo, I just woke up. Like, what?
sometimes genuinely chaotic process where different brain functions come back online at noticeably different speeds. Basic reflexes and motor function often return relatively quickly, while higher-order cognitive functions, clear thinking, coherent speech, accurate short-term memory, can lag behind significantly, sometimes by hours. This explains the well-documented phenomenon of patients saying bizarre, occasionally hilarious things immediately after surgery, asking the same question repeatedly, expressing dramatic emotional reactions to completely mundane situations, or confidently insisting on things that are demonstrably untrue. This isn't some kind of personality glitch or a sign that anything went wrong. It's simply a brain rebooting different systems on different timelines, with the parts responsible for filtering, judgment, and coherent memory formation generally being among the last systems to fully come back online. There's also a genuinely interesting age-related angle to this entire topic worth touching on, because anesthesia doesn't affect every brain identically, and certain populations show notably different patterns of recovery. Older patients in particular are at higher risk for something called postoperative cognitive dysfunction, a temporary, sometimes lingering period of confusion, memory difficulty, and reduced mental clarity following anesthesia, occasionally persisting for days or even weeks after a procedure.
Or if it's weak, so cool.
Studying this phenomenon have pointed to differences in how
Who is this? Who are these test dummies?
brains handle the disruption and subsequent recovery of that functional connectivity we talked about earlier, suggesting that the brain's ability to efficiently reestablish coordinated activity between different regions may itself decline somewhat with age, making the entire coming back online process slower and occasionally bumpier for older patients compared to younger ones. Let's circle back to the bigger philosophical question underneath all of this, because it's honestly the part of this topic that tends to stick with people the longest after they finish learning about it. If anesthesia genuinely disrupts the brain's ability to integrate information into a unified conscious experience, does that mean you, in any meaningful philosophical sense, briefly cease to exist during that window, only to be reconstructed afterward by a continuous physical brain that never actually stopped running its basic biological processes? This question sits right at the uncomfortable intersection of neuroscience and philosophy of mind, and it doesn't have a fully settled answer, partly because it depends heavily on which theory of consciousness you find most convincing in the first place.
True.
If consciousness really is fundamentally about integration, about information being woven together into one unified experience, then anesthesia represents something genuinely closer to a temporary cessation of you, specifically, rather than just a period of reduced awareness, a genuinely strange thought to sit with, especially the next time you're filling out pre-surgery paperwork. And yet, despite that unsettling philosophical implication, the practical...
I am so confused. So, do I or do I... Wait, what if you get superpowers in this? I ain't gonna hold you, that'll be tough.
lived experience of anesthesia consistently feels completely seamless to the person going through it. There's no perceived gap, no sense of having been gone, no existential dread experienced in real time, because the very mechanism that disrupts your conscious experience during anesthesia is the same mechanism that prevents you from forming any memory of that disruption happening in the first place. From the inside, it simply feels like a sentence that got interrupted mid-word and then picked right back up again, with absolutely no felt sense of the gap in between. Whatever genuinely happens to you during general anesthesia, whether it's a brief cessation of unified experience, some fragmented, disconnected form of minimal processing, or something else entirely that current science still can't fully characterize.
I ain't gonna hold y'all after this video. Yeah, it's probably gonna be the last video for the night.
Remarkable end result is
And
that
then, like, later on, cause I got nothing to do. So, I might, yeah, I might just, like, go to sleep, I guess.
it doesn't feel like anything at all, which might honestly be the strangest part of this entire topic. There's also a genuinely interesting angle here involving the specific brain structure that seems to act almost like a gatekeeper for consciousness itself, the
Right.
thalamus.
The who? The thalamus. So that's in the middle of your brain. So, like, dang.
Researchers studying anesthesia mechanisms have repeatedly pointed to the thalamus as a kind of central relay station, a structure that normally takes in sensory information from the entire body and routes it up to the cortex, where that information actually gets processed into something resembling
So that severe, that's like the main damage. Well, not damage, but like it gets hit and it slows it down.
conscious perception. Many general anesthetics appear to specifically suppress thalamic activity,
True.
effectively cutting off the relay station rather than shutting down the entire communication network all at once. This is part of why some researchers describe general anesthesia less like turning off a house's electricity and more like disconnecting the house from the power grid entirely. The internal wiring might technically still be capable of carrying a charge, but nothing meaningful is getting through from the outside world anymore. It's a small but important distinction.
Dang, could you just unplug it from the whole system?
Because it suggests your cortex, the part of your brain most associated with thinking, perceiving, and constructing a coherent sense of self, might still technically be capable of some activity during anesthesia. It's just been effectively cut off from receiving the steady stream of sensory information it would normally use to build
So you told me all of this just to say it just suppresses a thymus. So what
kind of conscious experience out of.
Our world is an amazing, amazing
Totally
place,
cut off, bro.
filled with so much wonder.
Okay.
There's also something worth mentioning about how individual variation plays a much bigger role in anesthesia response than most people realize, which is part of why anesthesiologists don't simply administer a fixed dose based on body weight and call it done. Genetic differences, metabolism speed, prior tolerance from things like chronic substance use, and even certain personality traits have all been studied as factors that can meaningfully shift how much anesthetic a given individual actually requires to reach the same depth of unconsciousness as someone else. There have been documented cases of patients requiring significantly higher than average doses simply due to unusual genetic variants affecting how their bodies metabolize specific anesthetic compounds. A genuinely unsettling category of medical mystery that anesthesiologists have to account for through careful monitoring rather than assuming a one-size-fits-all approach will work reliably across every patient who rolls into an operating room.
Bro, I swear you, if you just put a random like, under anesthesia, hey, bro, you might die. But I'm gonna put like 500 rounds in. Okay, that didn't work. I think we kill him. Like, what?
It's also worth
Who
bringing
agrees to do that?
the fascinating role that modern monitoring technology plays in trying to solve exactly the kind of uncertainty we've been discussing throughout this entire topic. Devices that track brain activity in real time during surgery, often using a simplified, processed version of EEG data condensed into a single number representing depth of unconsciousness, have become increasingly common specifically to reduce the risk of anesthesia awareness and make sure patients aren't receiving too much or too little anesthetic for their specific situation. These monitors represent a direct, practical attempt to solve the exact philosophical puzzle we've been circling this entire video. If we can't directly ask an unconscious brain whether it's truly unconscious, the next best thing is building increasingly sophisticated tools that can read the underlying electrical signature of consciousness itself and flag the moment that signature starts looking even slightly off from where it should be. There's also a strange, almost comforting symmetry worth mentioning before we wrap up, something that connects the beginning and end of every single anesthesia experience together. The same fundamental uncertainty that makes the going under moment so philosophically strange also applies in reverse to the waking up moment. And yet almost nobody walks away from surgery feeling unsettled by it in the way you might expect given how genuinely strange the underlying neuroscience actually is.
True.
We've essentially
I haven't even got surgery and I'm scared of anesthesia, bro.
built an entire brain
Now.
modern medicine around safely, repeatedly, and reliably inducing a state that we still can't fully explain on a deep philosophical level, and it works well enough, consistently enough, that millions of people undergo it every single year without a second thought about what's actually happening to their sense of self in the process. So where do you actually go under anesthesia? Based on everything current neuroscience can tell us, the honest answer is genuinely unsatisfying in the best possible way. You probably don't go anywhere in any literal sense at all. Your brain doesn't transport your consciousness to some alternate quiet dimension, it doesn't put your mind into some kind of protective storage, and it almost certainly isn't producing some unified dream state experience running in the background the entire time, at least not for the vast majority of patients under properly administered general anesthesia. Instead, the specific networks and connections responsible for generating your unified, continuous sense of being, you, simply stop functioning together in any coordinated way for a while. And when those connections come back online afterward, often messily, often slowly, often producing some genuinely strange transitional behavior along the way, the resulting experience feels, from the inside, like absolutely nothing happened at all. Maybe that's actually the most fitting way to end this whole discussion. We spend an enormous amount of energy trying to figure out where consciousness goes.
So you made me waste a whole entire video just to tell me it's not even.
During anesthesia, treating it almost like a missing persons case, when the fair stranger and more scientifically interesting answer might simply be that consciousness doesn't go anywhere. It just temporarily stops being assembled.
So you wasted 20 minutes to tell me. Yeah. Great video. I am pissed off right now. Before I punch my screen. Hey, bro, we done.